out of this spot.
Yeah,
You can pick
it's gonna
something
be
defender, I guess. Yeah.
game one going to Zalae on the back of the Pirate Warrior.
On the
Who
back
knew?
of the strength of Pirate Warrior. If you're kind of out of the know in ladder play, I've actually seen this deck a tiny bit popping up. Zalae's been streaming with it a little bit. I believe Trump was at one point as well in the last couple of days, and a few other players. But it's one of those decks. I think a lot of people, when they see these guys streaming with it, they're like, oh, they're just having fun on their stream. It's there for the memes and it's fun and it's funny. But this deck, like he was joking with me the other day, he's like, my win rate with this deck's at like 80%, and I don't mean I've won like 8 of 10 games. He's won 16 of like 20 and stuff, and that's a real thing. This deck has been putting up some very good results.
And as we saw, played one game and just swiftly got the win.
Yeah, I mean, when you get draws like that, though, it'll make any deck look good. So we're going to see if he keeps that up in game 2 or if LBYS can even up this series. And it looks like they got switched up a little bit here on the feed. So it looks like Zalae is going to be playing, I'm guessing, a mid-range variant of Shaman. Usually when you see Manatee Totem and Tuskar Totemic, it means a little more late-game focused than just the aggro version. Is that how you've seen it?
Yeah, for sure. The thing is, we don't know if it's going to be the more mid-range style or like the more totem style, which Zixo popularized, which the definitely card that shines in that list is the Primal Fusion, which buffs a minion up for the amount of totems you have. So we'll see which one he's running.
Yeah, and it feels to me like that totem version that you just mentioned that Zixo popularized. I feel like that's becoming the more popular version of this deck. I'm seeing less and less like fire elementals and way more primal fusions. Is there a reason for that, or do you think the fact that the deck's a little more flexible and has a little more early game is why people are doing it?
I think what they're realizing is that Fire Elemental is like a little bit of a slow card. So when you focus more on the early game, and if you get those early game boards, you could just snowball that lead and just winning the game. You don't need that Fire Elemental to like have that swing turn in that mid game. Where if you get those mana tides down and they draw you a couple cards because you're ahead on board, you can just win the game that way.
And we're going to see Zalae go ahead and put the totem down on turn 2. It's going to overload him next turn, so he can't play Tuskar Totemic. So it's going to be an awkward turn 4 for him. I mean, it's going to be hard to pass up a 7/7, but he will have Rockbiter available to him next turn. If he draws a 2-drop, he can do that as well. This is something that could happen with the Shaman deck. Sometimes you get some kind of like awkward draws where you have to overload yourself at some point, and it's just not working out that well. But you see, Crazed Alchemist actually can have some value this turn as well. He could get rid of this totem here, which is a hard card for Zoo to deal with sometimes. I think this is one of the reasons you're seeing Soulfire come back into this deck. It actually helps out with this matchup a lot.
Yeah, that's the other thing. He could save that Crazed Alchemist for something like the Manatide, because the Direwolf does do effectively the same thing. Makes that Flame Up trade cleanly into the Totem Golem. So I think that's the play he's going to go for, but I still wouldn't be that surprised if he went for the Crazed Alchemist.
Yeah, I mean, like, I definitely think Direwolf Alpha is actually just as good, if not better, in a lot of ways. But let's say there's sometimes where you just want to play this and you use the Direwolf Alpha possibly later in the game to pump up some of your like 1 and 2 power minions to get through some taunters of Zalae's deck, like if he has Spectral Wolves, because that card can sometimes be kind of hard for you to deal with. And yeah, he's kind of in a weird spot here. Do you totem or do you get really aggressive with this Rockbiter to get in 1 damage? This is a spot where none of these plays look great.
Yeah, it's definitely an awkward spot. I'm trying to think, because Zoo definitely, they just want to keep building that board. So there's definitely some merit to just Rockbiter and clear up that Voidwalker, just reduce the minions up on the board going into that big 7-drop turn or 4-drop.
It feels like it should be a 7-drop turn, right?
It's a big guy.
We're used to paying 7 mana for our 7/7s. Granted, they brought along 2 little bombs with them, but still, like 4 mana for a 7/7. Like, people thought this card would go away. There's another card I didn't want to surprise people with. This is another card Zalae's been trying out. That's a Hammer of Twilight. It's a 4/2 weapon that when it dies, it leaves a 4/2 body. And he's been saying this card's actually been great. It's good against the control decks because it pressures them a lot. It's 12 power and 1 card. And then 4 damage is a lot for a weapon to do and helps clear off a lot of minions in the minion-centric battles while leaving a body behind as well.
My favorite thing about it is that it's really not even that weak to Harrison, because if they destroy the weapon, you're going to get the guy.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of Harrisons and Acidic Swamp Oozes lately, too. I saw a lot today in preliminaries, saw a lot. I did Star Ladder over the week as well, and it felt like every deck had a way to kill a weapon. The Warrior decks are really popular right now. Shaman has Doomhammer, and you just have to kill that card. So Yeah, I didn't even think about it that way. It's just even less weak to the weapon removal stuff. That's a really good point.
I think the thing is that nobody like really thinks it's a bad card. It's just Doomhammer is considered such a good card, and
Hmm.
everybody is running usually like two of those in the Aggro Shaman, at least one in the mid range. That it's is there room to run this? Like you have to think like how many Doomhammers is Zalae running? Does he even have one?
Yeah, I would think he has one. I don't know his exact list. I mean, we were just like, brainstorming about this stuff a few days ago. I was over at the Archon House hanging out, and he talked about this card and some other cards and stuff. And, I didn't think he was serious. I didn't think he was really going to play this, but here we are. This is a hammer of Twilight in his hand, and along with this abusive sergeant, Zalae finds a way to clear here. I'm sorry, LBYS finds a way to clear and get a ton of damage in with that councilman. That card gets out of hand very quickly.
That's a card that not a lot of people talked about before the set came out, but
Hmm.
as soon as they played a couple ladder games, people realized that Dark Councilman has to be like in the top three cards in the set. Just you play it down, and if you don't have an immediate answer, that card just starts pushing, and it starts pushing real hard.
Yeah, one of the last ONOG event that I did, multiple people felt like they were safe at a really really high life total and left a councilman into play, only to die to it over like the next turn or two. And I was like jokingly making an announcement. I was like, this is for the good of everyone. If you see this card, it's kill on sight. You have to kill this card. It just does way too much damage way too quickly in this deck. Now, Zalae got a little greedy with his lightning storm, but it might actually pay off.
So he has two options here. You could either go for the Tuskar, which he decided to go with, because this could pull the spell power totem just as well as just totem and can. And it's not even that important because you could just roll high on the Voidwalker anyway. It's important that he gets that minion on the board to start contesting the minions that LBYS plays out.
Yeah, and roll high he did, and not only is it important to kill all the other minions, it makes that Sea Giant cost so much more, and LBYS is probably looking for a Sea Giant turn this turn, but that's not going to be available to him because there's not enough minions on board to make it cheap, but Soulfire is going to be used to take care of Zalae's minion here, and
Wow.
that's a dope. I'm sorry, I was very surprised by two. I can understand one, but Zalae is going deep here. I love it.
A little bit of the fun part about this is next turn he could equip the second one and get the minion. That's not that bad.
It's really not actually, depending on the fact that he might not have a lot going on next turn either. He's got this Hex for something like Sea Giant were to happen, or just some other big minion that he's to take care of. He's got a Rock Biter if he needs to use this to take care of this Knife Juggler, so this 4-2 is going to be the biggest minion left on board, most likely. See what he gets from the Dark Peddler here. He's got Power Overwhelming, Blood Imp, Mortal Coil. It's pretty hard to pass up Power Overwhelming here, I think.
Yeah, Zalae's getting low, and LBYS is just trying to close out this game.
Mm-hmm. So Zalae, as you said, he's getting kind of low in life points here, and LBYS is going to push another damage here. I think a Thing from Below is the card that he's really looking to draw the most. And there you go. There's the answer to which version of this deck is he favoring. It looks like he's favoring the Totem version quite a bit more.
I was surprised to see the Primal Fusion, because usually when they do have the 7/7 creature, they don't have the Primal Fusion, because I know Zixo doesn't have that card in his list. So
Yeah. I think this is just like pretty much straight up Zalae's list. He's been playing a ton over the last few days, the last couple weeks, getting ready for Standard. Him and Orange did a lot of preparation for DreamHack, and now you're seeing it kind of pay off. And he's finally getting to play in some Standard tournaments with some interesting lists. These seem like reactionary to what's been going on. And LBYS, he has Zalae down to 10. He has a Power Overwhelming in his hand, but he needs to find that last 5 points of damage. Soulfire would have been lethal off the top here, or another Power Overwhelming. But he gets a Dark Peddler. That could find one of them.
yeah, you definitely play that over tapping. It just has to be right. You get either Power Overwhelming, Soulfire. It's much better than tapping for something like Leroy. Fortunately, we see that he does not get that, so
Yeah,
this game's definitely going to go on.
He's still got a strong turn ahead of him if he wants. He could Defender here after taking Voodoo Doctor. Do a trade if he wants. Heal his minion back up if he wants. Heal himself. You still have Power Overwhelming if you want to use it too. He's still got a lot of options. He can even, taunt up in a different way if he wants to here to protect one of his minions. How do you feel about Defender between these two? And do you think you need to fight for board or push damage here? You could eat the Healing Totem with a 3/3 Dark Peddler here. Or no, you just play the Dark Peddler. You can't attack. I apologize.
I think for sure you're going to go for like the most board-centric play, just because you see that Zalae's low on card, and you're at a high life total, and Zalae's not. You can just keep tapping, getting those cards, Just keep fighting for board. If you don't lose board, you're gonna win the game. There's no rush to pushing the damage now.
Yeah, definitely like this play, taunt up and go ahead and take out the 4-2 here. Thing from below picked up from Zalae. That's a big draw here. All right, so he can use this weapon to take care of the taunter here. That'll put him down to 7. I think that'd be like, do you think you should use Hex this turn, or is it just like too aggressive to save that much life?
I think you could. I think you could hold on to the Hex just because he is putting this taunt up, so he's not going to be dead to something like a Lyra Charger. And he can deal with this entire board here using the Rock Biter on the Spell Power Totem, which I expect him to do.
Yes, we'll see. Taunt Totem would be really welcome here. He does roll that one as well. This should help defend him from any of the charge minions that are going to come out of LBYS's deck. He gets to save the Hex for, say, something like the second Sea Giant. If there's a second one, a lot of these lists only run one in Zoo, but there's a chance there could be a third one. Second one in LBYS's deck.
So for the first time this game, Zalae's just recovering this board and getting ahead.
Yeah, it took him a long time. It took him a lot of life to do so, but it looks like he's going to get there. And there's only one reach, like real reach card left in LBYS's deck that gets around Taunters. I believe he has one Soulfire left because a lot of these lists run 2. And Zalae's at 8, so he's going to have to find a way to get through 4 more damage this game. I'm wondering if he's going to be able to do that before Zalae can finish this off.
It's going to be real hard because once the Shaman gets a board like this, Zoo obviously is not known for their comeback mechanics. They need to build the board and stay ahead until they close out the game. So it's definitely going to be real tough from here.
Yeah, LBYS is going to take his time. If you just play 2 minions here, I was about to say, you can just play 2 minions here, you get a 2-5 and a 4-4, but Zalae has a couple ways either. A second thing from below. That's a huge draw for Zalae. That actually might be game winning.
I don't know.
He was already in a pretty good spot. Yeah.
LBYS got to be thinking, he's low on cards. Maybe they're just very dead, but these are probably one of the best 2 cards he could have left in his deck. Hex to deal with one of these creatures, another 5-5, one of the bigger minions he has in his deck, and he's getting the 4-2 this turn from the weapon.
Yeah, he's going to add so much power to it. I almost feel like you should probably use Hex this turn just to get super far ahead. Yeah, I like this. You're just so far ahead on this turn. You Hex, kill this minion here. You can even push 4 damage to get the 4-2 because there's no AoE effect you're worried about coming out of LBYS's deck. And so this is 16 damage, 17 damage. Yeah, this actually sets up lethal.
Yeah. As you said, Zalae knows that all he could do is to kill him is use the Soulfire, and he's seen 1. So as long as he's above 4, he should be a lock for this game. So that's why he went for the Hex instead of taking that damage. And LBYS realizes that, and he's just going to go ahead and concede the game.
What a start from Zalae here. A little behind it felt in this game, but navigates a really close one, stabilizes at 8, and is able to take the game right there. So Zalae's up 2-0. He's got a Warlock deck left over. LBYS still has all 3 of his decks left over, and we'll see if we get to even see a new deck from LBYS anytime soon. We're going to have to find out. But I'm interested to see what deck Zalae is playing since his lineup is so aggressive. I got to believe this third deck is Zoo.
It's got